All right, good morning, everyone. Dr. Randall Gates, board certified chiropractic neurologist, also a chiropractic physician at Gates Brain Health. And today we're talking about peripheral neuropathy as being as being a board certified chiropractic neurologist. I've worked with a lot of peripheral neuropathy patients throughout the years, and I'm going to try and provide you with some of the realities of this condition. I haven't talked about this in a number of years. Because I've kind of seen the waters getting muddied, so to speak. There are a lot of testimonials out there about neuropathy, and I'm not questioning whether those people got better, but lots of times in my experience in talking to most neuropathy patients, it sometimes makes them feel that they are less than for not getting better or not having a simple or easy recovery. So I'm going to go back through all the major causes of neuropathy. This is the part 1 series. I'm going to talk about diabetes today in large part, and I'll give you some generalities as well. But I'm also going to talk about why some people get better and why some may not be getting better as fast as they want to. And the whole premise behind how a functional practitioner can work with a neuropathy patient and maybe make some changes, whereas a lot of neuropathy patients go and see their GP or they see their neurologist and they're told, there's nothing that can be done for your condition. You're just going to have to live with it. So I'm going to hope to cover all those points today. If you have any questions, send them to our YouTube page and we'll go from there. So peripheral neuropathy part 1, peripheral neuropathy and diabetes. So this is where we're going to start. I'm actually going to scroll down through this presentation. I'm going to go to this chart. This is going to help you to really see some of the basics behind neuropathy. While all these statistics are not completely accurate, we approximated as best as we could relative to creating this diagram. But what you can see here on this side of your screen in orange is that diabetes encompasses about 50% of all neuropathy cases. Also keep in mind 50% of people with diabetes approximately are going to develop neuropathy. So right now, approximately 10.2% of the American population has diabetes. Right now, the American population is estimated to be about 330 million people. So approximately a little over 33 million people have diabetes. About half of them will have peripheral neuropathy. So now you're a little over 16 million individuals are going to have diabetic peripheral neuropathy. And so the incidence of neuropathy is going up as the incidence of diabetes is going up, which is very important because it used to be thought only 20 million Americans had peripheral neuropathy, and it's 30 million Americans. It's just going to keep rising as diabetes and diabetes prevalence keeps rising. Also, we're now seeing that prediabetes causes small fiber peripheral neuropathy, which is where the pain nerves start to die and degenerate. And prediabetes happens before somebody develops diabetes. The other issue is that basically 1/3 of the American population has prediabetes or something along the prediabetic spectrum. So you can see in this light green area here that prediabetes is accounting for a significant percentage, about 1/3 of this other side of the pie are individuals with pre-diabetic small fiber neuropathy. So blood sugar control is very, very, very important for a lot of people who have peripheral neuropathy. And if you have neuropathy and you have diabetes, or if you have neuropathy and you have pre-diabetes, you may have to shift your mindset to that if you want to make a change in your neuropathy, you're going to have to do a lot on your end as well as your doctor's end to try and make a change in your blood sugar. We've been conditioned in this society to take another pill, to take another pill, to take another pill. And while certainly that works, and while certainly, for example, taking more diabetes medications will control blood sugar better and actually can prevent the development of peripheral neuropathy, as is evidenced in the diabetes control and complications trial, I think that's what it was called, where they took 1,441 individuals with diabetes and they either tightly controlled their blood sugar or they loosely controlled their blood sugar, meaning they just kind of said, okay, well, we'll keep your blood sugar in a moderate range. Others, they kept it in a very tight window. And when they kept blood sugar down in diabetic patients, their chances of developing peripheral neuropathy were markedly less, even like 5 years later. So that's really, really important for you to know. So tight control of blood sugar can be very important for peripheral nerve function. Well, what happens in peripheral neuropathy? In peripheral neuropathy, nerves tend to die and degenerate. Most typically starting at the feet, and someone like a diabetic can spread up to the knees and then up to the hands. We're going to try and go through a lot of the different types of neuropathy in this series. So are there deviations from that pattern? 100% yes. The diabetic patient typically does not manifest with a lot of weakness. Other types of neuropathy manifest with weakness. A diabetic neuropathy patient will probably present with numbness and tingling in their legs, and they may have coordination problems, but they're not that severe. It's just more numbness and tingling and weird sensations. Sometimes there's burning, whereas like a pre-diabetic small fiber neuropathy patient is going to present with their feet horribly burning, and lots of times they can't have sheets on their feet at night. It's called nocturnal allodynia, because those sheets will be so bothersome to the small fiber nerves, which are being irritated by the pre-diabetic process, that they have to sleep with their feet outside the covers, and their feet get really hot and they may change color. So that is more your pre-diabetic small fiber neuropathy presentation. How does a functional practitioner address something like diabetes without medication? Around 2012, it came out that there's a very large connection between the gastrointestinal bacteria, which is called your microbiome. 37 trillion bacteria approximately live in your intestines and colon. You only have about 30 trillion cells in your body. So we have more bacteria here than we have cells in our body. And they found that the bacteria of diabetics and pre-diabetics are different than those without diabetes or pre-diabetes, which is pretty interesting. And so these researchers started studying more in-depth processes relative to these bacteria, and they found that in diabetics and pre-diabetics, pieces of these bacteria break off, go into the bloodstream, particularly the liver, poison the liver, and the liver becomes less receptive to insulin because all these other downstream processes like toll receptors, toll-like receptor 4 get stimulated, and as a consequence, we don't get basically insulin docking with the cell as well as we would like to. So what happens? So you start making more insulin. That's the pre-diabetic phase. So now I should have a chart of this. I'll probably try to bring a chart in for another broadcast. But let's say you're eating a potato, a baked potato with dinner. Now you're going to make more insulin for that amount of carbohydrate in the potato. But what happens through time, if this happens for 10 years, 20 years, lots of times, then you can't make insulin anymore. It's like the pancreas burns out, and that's the diabetic process. Once sugar is starting to elevate in prediabetes or really elevating in diabetes, the sugar attracts water into your nerves. We lack an enzyme called aldolase A. If I remember correctly, it might be aldolase B. But we lack this aldolase enzyme that gets the sugar into a non-osmotic form and gets it out of your peripheral nerve tissue. The issue is that peripheral nerve tissue, retinal tissue, your eyes, as well as your kidneys, lack this enzyme. So as a result, we get the accumulation of sorbitol in our nerve tissue when blood sugar is high, and sorbitol is osmotically active. So now it's attracting water into your nerves. Your nerves are starting to swell. Swelling nerves is not a good thing, and then the nerves start to stretch. They start to get irritated, which leads to symptoms like numbness, tingling, and or burning. And then as a result, if this goes on through time, your nerves will start to die. They'll literally start to die and degenerate. Also, blood vessels, they've shown what's called a microangiopathy in diabetics, is where their blood vessels to the nerves starts to get clogged up, so to speak, so we get a lack of blood flow to the nerve tissue. And result being swollen nerves with a lack of blood flow is not a good thing, and that results in neuropathy. Now, if you can stop the diabetic or pre-diabetic process, you may have a chance to slow the progression of this process. And that's where a lot of you are going to see ads in your local newspaper come into this doctor's clinic for laser therapy. They're going to have some testimonial talking about, well, I went to this doctor and I had neuropathy and he put laser on my feet and now my neuropathy is gone. Or you're going to see some type of electrical stimulation unit. I saw this doctor with an electrical stimulation unit and my neuropathy is gone. Certainly there are those testimonials out there. Certainly there are cases that are going to get better easier than others. And this is a point I want to hammer home. Anyone who's worked with neuropathy patients is going to have success stories, and we all have those success stories. But keep in mind, if you have seen other doctors and you haven't gotten better, don't get disenfranchised, because you're not the only one. I've seen a lot of patients who see many practitioners and they're still struggling with their neuropathy symptoms. Also keep in mind too, And some people have really severe forms of neuropathy, and if you can at least control it to one area of the body, maybe you just control the symptoms to the feet, maybe you're winning in the long run, just holding the progression in that spot. So frame of reference is very, very, very important for any patient with neuropathy. Needless to say, with all that being said, if you have diabetic neuropathy, if you have pre-diabetic neuropathy, how do you affect your blood sugars in a more profound fashion, so to speak? So what you do is you want to look at the research on the microbiome. The research on the microbiome right now is saying that a vegetable-based diet is the best thing for the gut bacteria. A high fiber diet is the best thing for the gut bacteria. And the more carbs you eat, the less chance you have of trying to assimilate a lot of those carbs into your diet or into your body and your cells adequately. There's some controversy about this though right now. I've used ketogenic diets, I've used paleo diets for a number of years with neuropathy patients, particularly diabetics and pre-diabetics. I've had a lot of success. There's even more research coming out now saying that a plant-based diet may be more effective, where there's decreased grain consumption. I'm not prescribing a diet for all of you out there, but I'm just talking about the research and that they're saying more of a high fiber vegetable-based diet may be good for a diabetic, which seems counterintuitive because there's going to be some carbs from fruit and things of that nature. Needless to say, experimenting and trying to find the right diet for you, working with a nutritionist can be beneficial. All the while, if you can get your blood sugar under better control and you can work with your general practitioner, your neurologist, or your diabetes specialist on control of your blood sugar from a medication standpoint, then coming in and actually looking at, okay, well, how can I stimulate these nerves back to life? Or use something like a laser to activate the nerves to where you can get more blood flow to the nerves. That will give you a probability of maybe making a change. Again, I'm not saying this is the cure. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm just talking about the research here and a different paradigm for addressing peripheral neuropathy, because most peripheral neuropathy patients are going to be told there's nothing that can be done for you. You need to take this medication, do this treatment, and go home and live with it. And there's certainly merit to what the doctors are saying there, because no one has come out yet and said, okay, this is a new way of addressing peripheral neuropathy that's going to work for a lot of people. And the reason why I think is because it is a challenge. Once you've developed diabetes, your insulin signaling has changed, and it's difficult to change it back. It's difficult to get the pancreas working better again. It takes a lot of work on your part dietarily. But if you are persistent, and if you have a doctor that's persistent to try and help you get your nerve function back and working better again, then you actually have a chance of maybe helping your neuropathy symptoms. So that's the reality that I wanted to display in today's broadcast. And I'll probably go through some of these other features in another broadcast. I'll probably incorporate them into the next one. But that's what I wanted to encapsulate in today's discussion. So if you have any questions, let me know. Like and subscribe our YouTube channel. Would love that. And send us any questions you have. So thank you very much, and we'll talk to you soon.